We have scheduled back-to-back New Heroes banners, and our first one is for Genealogy of the Holy War. Today we'll be talking about Scáthach, Arthur, Tine, and Ascended Ishtar. We'll discuss some stats, skills, and build ideas. First up is Scáthach, who is the 4-star focus unit of the banner. You can get him at 4-star or 5-star rarity, and after the banner is over, he's going to demote into the 3 to 4-star permanent pool. As a unit, Scáthach is our first sword infantry demote in about 4 years. Scáthach will be taking one for the team though, and despite being large-sized twin, he's not going to be getting that same regular Astra type treatment. For stats, Scáthach has 43 HP, 42 attack, 30 speed, 43 defense, and 24 res. His sword isn't the only thick thing about him because 43 base defense is meaty. He ties New Year's Keaton for highest defense for any infantry unit, and he does have the highest defense out of any sword unit in the game. For super boons, you have the choice of attack or res, and Scáthach has great base attack for big hits. Generally speaking, Scáthach is ready to brawl with physical damage, but his lower res and middling speed leaves him open to those good mages. 30 speed is in that awkward spot of being not very useful, and unless you heavily invest in it, there's a good chance Scáthach will just get doubled often. If you're hoping for a speedy new free-to-play friendly sword unit, then Yen Fei is still probably the go-to. In terms of skills, Scáthach did master Astra, but unfortunately it's not Fei's regular Astra, and the original Astra special has never really been the go-to for many units. For passives, Scáthach will bring attack and defense ideal 3 to the demo pool, which is actually fantastic. If you've been saving those legendary male pilots, you definitely want to use Scáthach first to grab his other skills. Last, Scáthach is going to have odd defense wave. It can proc his ideal A skill as well as his weapon. Speaking of which, Scáthach has the Spirited Sword Plus. This inheritable sword has 14 might, and if bonus is active on the unit, grants +4 attack and defense, and get +1 special cooldown charge when the foe attacks you. Spirited Sword is the same as Bridal Orberos's Pledged Blade Plus, but now you can get it in the demo pool. It's not a high tier weapon, but its cooldown effect could be nice for cavalry or flyers who do not have a ton of cooldown skill options. As a reminder, it only grants cooldown when you get hit, and you need a bonus active on the user. For infantry and armor units, I would really just recommend running one of the breath type sacred seals instead, and choose a different weapon. Generally, you want a way to self-buff if you run this weapon, and best case scenario is to have status effects, since those are much tougher to neutralize. In terms of builds, if you want to keep most of Scáthach's base kit, then slot in good old Quick Riposte and pair it with Steady Breath for a very basic enemy phase setup. Obviously, Steady Breath is partially redundant with Spirited Sword, but again, I think it's the better option, and you can run something else like the Steadfast Sword. If you do want to keep Spirited Sword, you can slot in Sacred Seals like Attack and Defense Form or Bond. Odd Defense Wave helps getting a bonus, but for consistent buffing, Attack and Defense Oath or Res is better. If you want some premium skills, you can upgrade to Attack and Defense Ideal 4 or swap to Sturdy Stance 3. You can also move Quick Riposte to the Sacred Seal slot, and you can run low attack and defense instead. Of course, feel free to substitute any defense skill with its res variant if you want. For pure physical tanking, you could try Distant Foe to fight archers and dagger users. If you want to fight arm units, Scáthach does have high attack to run an armor smasher, and you could pair that with no follow-up or even just simple axe breaker. There is also the new temple skills rolling in, and again, I mentioned the temple plus guard weapon combo. Not that the guard sword is easy to get. Speaking of res skills, another defense focused inheritable sword is the Winter Rapier and the Unbound Blade. Could be fun for a solo type build. If you got Galzus, the Rain Sword could be one way to beef up Scáthach's speed because you need a lot of investment to make it partially worthwhile. Unfortunately, because we see so few demoted or heroic railsword units, there are not a lot of easy to get inheritable options. Maybe that will change this year. Overall, Scáthach will be a nice new face to see in the very old red demo pool. He is very attack and defense focused, and you're going to need a lot of investment if you want to up his speed or res. Scáthach will be an interesting project if you want to go for a tankier build, but for those wanting some speed, it's going to be near impossible to top Yen Fei in terms of recent units. Our next unit is Arthur, and this is the third Arthur in Fei now. Technically, Genealogy Arthur came first, so he should have the rights to the name, at least in English. He is the son of Totiu, and his sister is also on this banner. This Arthur is a green infantry mage with 40 HP, 42 attack, 41 speed, 30 defense, and 18 res. He has a very nice attack speed super boons, and unlike most mages, Arthur sacrifices res to have a decent base 30 defense. It's not the worst trait concerning the slew of distant counter threats, but Arthur will struggle against his fellow mages. For his old skills, Arthur has Glimmers to special and attack and speed ideal 4. Muriel has the tier 3 version, so Arthur can lead into some very nice skill inheritance chains. Unfortunately for Arthur, he's going to take the 5-star without a unique weapon spot for the banner. Luckily, he comes with the great inheritable tome, the Green Vulture Tome Plus. If unit is not adjacent to an ally, inflict penalty on foes attack and res during combat equal to 5 plus any current penalty on those stats, calculated individually of course. The green vulture tome was actually included in last update's asset files, so we knew it was coming soon. It is the same as the Pledgeon Torch Plus from last year, but that was essentially a vulture tome in essence. These weapons are very strong when they proc, but you're going to have to be solo and you must apply attack and res debuffs to fully utilize the weapon. Largely, it is perfect for attack and res menace, but Arthur won't have that skill naturally. Instead, Arthur's going to get Speed and Res Menace. At the start of the turn, if unit is within 4 spaces of a foe, inflict -6 Speed and Res on closest foes and grant +6 Speed and Res to the user for 1 turn. As usual, Menace skills are extremely strong and they can be great for player phase moves. Speed Menace creates a giant 12 speed disparity, and for the Res portion, Arthur's going to get more damage and he'll take any extra Res he can get. His 18 base Res isn't great, but add +6 and potentially the Vulture Tome's attack buffs or attack debuffs, and Arthur starts to bulk up. Like with other variant Res, Menace is great for Res comparing skills, and recent units like Soki with her Refiner, Young Soren, or Eliana could make use of these speed advantages. This could be a fun C-skill for Dragon Wall users as well who are investing in speed. Sadly, while Speed and Res Menace is fun, Arthur's not going to get his attack debuffs for the Vulture Tome. Kind of a bummer. That said, Arthur does have a pretty nice base kit all things considered. He's going to hit hard with his fantastic attack and speed stats, the Vulture Tome, and attack and speed ideal 4. Add your favorite B skill like low speed and res or no follow-up, and a sacred seal like attack and speed solo or blade session. The only major downside is that I do think Arthur wants those attack debuffs. With his higher defense stat, he can be an interesting mage to fight the millions of distant counter threats by taking a physical damage hit. With attack and res menace, he can fully proc the Vulture Tome, and that's going to get him -17 attack debuffs total. Add in something like sturdy impact or attack and defense ideal with attack and defense solo, and you have a deceptively beefy mage. Of course, you need to set up the Vulture Tome for the full effect, and any foe that ignores penalties kind of kills the weapon. You could run the simpler Fox Tome, but Vulture Tome can work on the enemy phase if you have better debuffing options. One kind of odd thing to note is that you could run a Raven Tome build, perhaps if colorless archers and dagger units are still giving you problem. Arthur does not have a lot of strong inheritable options. While we get a ton of heroic grow red mages with not the best inheritable tomes, we get no green mages at all, so I never really get the chance to talk about the lack of inheritable green tomes. It's a problem for sure, but if we can get better tome options like the Vulture Tome, then maybe Arthur will have better usage. If you do stick with the Vulture Tome, you're going to need to find a way to get those attack debuffs somehow. Next up is Tine, who is Arthur's younger sister and thus another child of Tao Tiu. Tine will be a colorless infantry mage and has great offensive stats like her brother. 38 HP, 42 attack, 42 speed, 23 defense, and 26 res. She has speed and res super boons, but you might want to take plus attack considering her playstyle. For those keeping track at home, Tine has the best offensive spread for any colorless mage. 42-42 is honestly one of the best for any mage period. For old skills, Tine is going to come with Draconic Aura, Fury 4, and no follow-up. The Fury plus no follow-up set is sort of annoying to face in general content, since if you can't outspeed or one-shot the user, your tanks may just not get a chance to redeem themselves. Tine makes this especially tough with her Thunderstruck Tome. This bad boy has 14 might, accelerates specials, and for the first 3 turns or when Tine is under 4 HP, she gets +1 special cooldown count at start of each turn. Additionally, with those same conditions, she's going to get +6 attack and speed during combat, and if special triggers, Tine gets +7 damage and neutralizes % damage reduction skills. Do note, Tine won't get the extra damage with AoE specials. Thunderstruck Tome slaps together 2 weapons. Basically, it's got the 3-turn special charging effect that Conus's Refine introduced, and the other half is young Innis's Bowl of Frelia, which was already cracked on a free unit, so naturally it's even better on a 5-star only unit. The way I see it, Tine is sort of like the newest take on an Ophelia or Lysithea type mage. She wants to, and eventually will, pre-charge her special, and unlike the other one-shot playstyle mages, Tine gets to ignore damage reduction skills. Of course, hardy fighter is going to be an issue, but for everyone else, buckle up. What's potentially scarier is that Tine is colorless, so she doesn't have an innate disadvantage, and with Fury 4 in her kit, she's basically always going to ensure she procs Thunderstruck Tome past turn 3. That is a very scary weapon, and you honestly just need to get to Tine first. Now, Tine does have a new inheritable skill, and it's Blue Feud 3, the last of the feud's colors. Basically, against blue foes, you disable all other support skills during combat, and you inflict -4 all stats on the blue enemy. Against any other color in combat, you disable the support skills of blue foes. So, like the other Feud C skills, these are meant to target specific units in their color group. Blue Feud is potentially one of the strongest due to the sheer amount of brave Hectors running around, and being able to negate any buffs going to the stupidly tanky Hector is appreciated. Blue Feud can also disable Nifl's damage reduction field, although that's not a concern for Tine herself. It will also stop Brave Lucina or the rarer New Year's Valoria from giving allies steady breath cooldown reduction. If you have a specific unit meant to counter someone like Brave Hector, then maybe Blue Feud can work for you. I still think the Feud skills should have countered Savior, but we're a bit past that now. Overall, Tine is definitely a mage you should not ignore. Like Ophelia or Lysithea, you really can't ignore the sheer damage output with a pre-charged special and high base attack. Plus, Tine is going to continuously charge a special for 3 turns. That means that by herself, she can pre-charge any 4 cooldown special given the time. Honestly, her base kit doesn't exactly play into her weapon. Fury's recoil damage is the only important aspect, but it also further ensures Tine is going to be a very squishy and low HP glass cannon. It might be fine for the first fight to take 1 hit, but after that, Tine probably doesn't want to take any further damage, and that sort of makes no follow-up not that important. Ideally, Tine wants to one-shot whoever with her special. Thunderstruck Tome gives that +7 damage and +6 attack, so really just continue buffing her attack stat. She will ignore damage reduction skills, so even though she has the speed to compete with dodge tanks, it's not a big deal to continue building speed. Now in terms of specials, Draconic Aura is fine and will pre-charge on turn 2. If you run 2 cooldown specials, Tine will recharge them every single player phase, but if you want to recharge Draconic Aura or Luna, you're going to need Time's Pulse. This is where Fury's recoil damage is important to get under 4 HP within the first 3 turns. Now, Tine can completely charge an AoE special if left for 3 turns. You can speed things up, but once it's ready, she can run the Special Spiral spam build. Important to understand, Thunderstruck's Tome's damage reduction nullification does not affect AoE specials, and things like dodge do work against them in that way. This does push Tine a bit more toward running the single target specials, but it's not like she's any worse than Ophelia if you go for the big AoE damage. Something to note, if you go this route, you may want to keep Fury 4 and not go for double life and death. At full HP after 3 turns, Tine is not going to get extra damage or extra cooldown, which might matter if you run into guard. That said, half of her weapon doesn't affect AoE specials regardless, and if you get the highest potential damage from double life and death, I would just do Fury 4 with life and death 3 as a seal though. In conclusion, I do think Tine is a unit to watch out for, and this especially goes for if mages get a unique special. If it's a damage reduction nullification special like Deadeye, then that part is sort of lost since Thunderstruck's Tome already does that. That currently is the big benefit for Tine out of the gate. However, there's a decent chance the damage aspect of the mage special could be unique with its own cooldown, so it's still worth keeping an eye on. Any mage that can pre-charge specials will obviously have an advantage, and if it's another high damage, high cooldown special like Lethality, then Tine is in a better spot than most. Speaking of special focused mages, Tine isn't the only one on this banner. The star for today is Ascended Ishtar, and like Ascended Merida, this is basically just a what if Ishtar was released in 2022 type deal. She will be a blue infantry mage again, and for stats, she has 40 HP, 41 attack, 43 speed, 17 defense, and 31 res. If you focus on speed, Ishtar has the best offensive spread for any mage, and she has an attack super boon as well. Reminder that Ascended units give you that sweet floret to spend, and they get to choose an Ascended asset for free, so do use that. I would highly recommend going with plus speed if you can. For ult skills, Ishtar has Luna, Life and Death 4, low speed and res, and times pulse, yeesh. Basically, you could pass most of those skills to Tine or any offensive mage because it's focused on full-on offense. For unique tome, Ishtar is running it back with Thunder's Mjolnir, 14 might accelerate specials, and at start of combat if she has 125% HP, she gets plus 6 attack and speed, she gets no guard and no special charge, aka tempo, and also if she initiates with 10 or more speed than the foe, Ishtar attacks twice. So this is not a very complex weapon, and we've kind of seen it before. Basically, it's a pseudo brave weapon, but requires Ishtar to outspeed by 10 or more. I just talked about this because it's also the effect of Harmonic Lysithea's weapon. By and large, it's just a slang tome with plus 6 attack and speed and tempo, but if you combine those effects with brave attacks, you get a very scary unit. With times pulse and slang, Ishtar gets Luna to 1 cooldown. With brave attacks, she procs Luna on her second hit, and because she has no guard, this is guaranteed to happen. You cannot stop this. Same idea goes for 2 cooldown specials without times pulse, and you can also run 4 cooldown specials if you take Flashing Blade. Like with Tine, Ishtar is another mage to watch for if we get a unique mage special. Ishtar would appreciate it more if it was a damage reduction nullification special, and if it's 3 cooldown or less, then oh boy. Moving on to builds, Ishtar is pretty much set for your basic glass cannon player phase mage, plus 7 attack and speed from Life and Death 4, low speed and res, and Blade Session is one of the highest speed sets you can get. You can go higher with speed or attack and speed ideal 4 or join drive speed with field buffs, but that's up to you. Speed is Ishtar's game and ultimately part of her problem. Unlike Tine, who doesn't care about damage reduction besides the defensive specials, Ishtar cannot ignore that issue, and we do not have a Deadeye or lethality type mage special just yet. Her assault might be stopped if damage reduction is in play, and even though Ishtar can match the speed of dodge users, is she outspeeding those already super fast units by 10 or more? Against speedy dodge type units, the damage reduction isn't the problem, it's not getting access to her brave attacks. Especially if you run Life and Death, Ishtar has no defensive capabilities. You could run Wind Sweep, but if you fail the speed check, Ishtar only hits once, and that is really bad. You could also run No Follow-Up, but like with Tine, it might not help if Ishtar doesn't survive at least one hit. To be honest, I do think Ascended Ishtar is strong, but there are certain scenarios where she can get screwed. Accelerated tempo into brave or quad attacks is hilariously powerful, but can it bust through damage reduction? On the other hand, if the enemy matches Ishtar's speed, does she have enough pure attack to one-shot them sans special? Tine actually solves both of these issues with pre-charging specials and damage reduction nullification. Of course, Ishtar has higher damage potential, but that's assuming she hits twice or quads. Similar to Tine, I do think Ishtar can run AoE specials, although you're going to need to fight to charge it up. No Guard is very useful for the special spiral build, and she can brave attack to finish the job. It's pretty powerful. No Guard can also let Ishtar run Flashing Blade to charge up Dragon Fang or Astra, assuming Time's Pulse is kept. There is one scenario for Ishtar to shine, and that's against slower hardy fighter far save users. One of the weaknesses to those builds is that you potentially KO or heavily wound the armor unit with brave attacks, since defensive special only procs against one hit. To counter this, Deflect Magic can be run and Guard blocks a special from happening on this second hit. Ascended Ishtar has tempo to bypass guard, so her special procs on the second non-Ice Mirror or Aegis soaked attack. If she can get a damage reduction nullification special, then you can also bypass Deflect Magic. Accelerated tempo brave attacks can be deadly, but Excited Ishtar could really shine if we ever get that mage specific special. That'll be it for this banner breakdown. Actually not a lot of new things to discuss, but some very strong mages you need to respect. If you are not summoning, you can still get in on the fun with Hilda, who is our next Grand Hero Battle Red Mage. It's that time of the year again, I suppose, but Hilda actually has some very nice surprises you do not want to miss. I'm excited to talk about her more in the next video. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you there.